The chief of the Cherokee Nation says if a new agreement cannot be reached between the tribe and the state on the future of its license plates, issues could come not just for drivers but also many Green Country public school districts. I spoke with the chief, who says the current terms the governor wants for all tribal tags does not fit when it comes to the state's largest tribe, the Cherokee Nation. The Choctaws and Chickasaws recently agreed to new license plate compacts with the state, but Cherokee Nation Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr. says one size doesn't fit all.
The only thing that makes sense is really a renewal of this compact, and that's what we'll be pushing for.
Hoskin warns the compact between the state and the Cherokee Nation about how Cherokee car tags are registered is about to expire at the end of the year. With it, he says, are major consequences.
The framework that has worked so well, the framework that delivers dollars to public schools to the tune of 38% of what we bring in, that vanishes.
Tribal nations can issue license plates to its own citizens for their personal vehicles, but the state and the tribes find a way to split the profits. Governor Kevin Stitt says all new tribal tag compacts must have the state getting a portion for roads and bridges. The tag must be readable by the plate pay system on turnpikes, and the tag must be in a database for law enforcement to access. Hoskin says the issue is the money split. Under the current agreement, the Cherokee Nation gives 38% of its money to local public schools. At a lunch Tuesday, the Cherokee Nation handed out $7.9 million in checks from tribal tag sales to public school districts within the tribe's boundaries. Hoskin says if the state wants more money, a new compact would mean schools could get less, and the Cherokee Nation won't agree to that.
Our compact enables us to issue tags outside of the Cherokee Nation. I mean, think about Tulsa County this year. $1.8 million for Tulsa County schools completely gone because that revenue source is gone. I mean, that is what happens if we don't renew this.
And then there are issues for drivers. Under state law, any vehicle with a tribal tag sold without a compact must remain within the boundaries of that tribe's land. That means someone with a Cherokee tag who lives in a place like Broken Arrow, South Tulsa, or Bixby would no longer have a valid plate since they live outside of the historic boundaries of the Cherokee Nation.
The only thing that makes sense is to renew this compact for another period.
One of the big worries we've heard is drivers getting pulled over and ticketed just for having a tribal tag. Last year, state troopers began to enforce an old court ruling that says if a tribe issues a tag but does not have a profit-sharing compact with the state, that vehicle can't be driven off of tribal lands. Both the Attorney General and the tribes accused Governor Kevin Stitt of ordering the Highway Patrol to target tribal tags. So I asked the governor if he did it. Did you sick the Highway Patrol on people with tribal tags?
No, I don't get involved with telling them how to do their job. I just say enforce the law and make sure that you're treating everybody fairly.
Now, Stitt says he does support the tickets because it pays for roads, and the governor's office sent Fox 23 a statement today about the tribal tag negotiations still going on with the Cherokee Nation. It says, quote, "We are continuing to negotiate in good faith and trust. The same courtesy is being reciprocated." But Cherokee Nation Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr. tells me he sees things differently. Joining me for more of this discussion on the car tag issue is Cherokee Nation Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr. Thanks for joining me here in studio today. Here, let's talk about this. This is a big deal. You've got a lot of drivers with your tags on their cars.
It's a big deal. I mean, think about it. This is an assertion of sovereignty, but what it comes down to is it's a great example of how we work together with our friends and neighbors. So millions of dollars every year going into people's local schools. I mean, we just gave checks out totaling $7.9 million to 107 school districts. Those are real dollars that make a real difference. And then you could go to your local law enforcement agency, police, sheriff's office, dollars for those important functions. And of course, roads and bridges. We support infrastructure. So this is a compact that works. It is the sovereignty of the Cherokee Nation, but it's really an example of working together, and it needs to continue.
Do you feel like the clock is ticking? Obviously, this is the end of the year, but when is panic time?
Well, it's not panic time at the Cherokee Nation. I don't think there's ever a panic time. But in terms of the urgency of the moment, I think we're here. We want to hear what the governor has to say in terms of an offer. But the legislature is in session. So the compact terminates at the end of the calendar year, but the legislative session ends in May, and they're in the thick of it right now. So we need to make decisions at the Cherokee Nation based on what we hear from the governor as to whether we need to turn to the legislature for assistance. And we're certainly ready, willing, and able to do so.
Now, aside from the education issue, we have people in this building who have Cherokee Nation car tags. They don't live on the reservation. They live in Broken Arrow, Bixby. what happens to those people?
Well, at the stroke of midnight at the end of this year, we no longer would have the authority to issue tags outside of the Cherokee Nation. And so people are familiar with the map. A good part of Tulsa is within the Cherokee Nation, but a lot is not. And of course, we have the whole rest of the state that we presently serve. But let's think about it in terms of schools. So Tulsa Public Schools receiving $1.7 million, Tulsa County schools, all the public schools in Tulsa County, $1.7 million. That goes to zero if this compact's not renewed. That's not good for Tulsa Public Schools. Then I could take you throughout the reservation and show you a lot of little schools that are really on the margins that need these dollars. Those will go away.
So let's say even if the state wants to renew, are you hoping to maintain that percentage for schools, or would you accept a small tweak?
Well, this is important. So if we're talking about a tweak in the numbers, what we're really talking about, I suppose, is more money that goes to the state treasury, then goes to the legislature for appropriation, then goes to the governor's desk on an appropriation bill, then goes to some agency, and then winds its way back to your local school, police department, sheriff's office, road department. We don't really need to talk about a tweak when we're talking about direct dollars to these entities, because I'm telling you, anybody who's been around long enough knows that if a dollar goes to the state capitol, it doesn't always come back as a dollar to your community. We send a dollar there for every dollar we collect.
It is no secret you all have butted heads with Governor Stitt.
Yeah.
Does your past make it harder to negotiate in the present?
Well, one might say that if they didn't know what happened just a few weeks ago. We negotiated a tobacco compact that I think many people thought might be impossible. And I credit the governor, and I think we certainly deserve some credit for coming to the table with an open mind, continuing what was really a status quo agreement, but it was in everybody's best interest. That's where we are with the tag agreement. Status quo is actually in everybody's best interest. No doubt we've had our differences with the governor. We've had some fundamental disagreements, and they've been very public. That's not a reason we shouldn't have some optimism that we can't reach a compact. But here's what I'm prepared to do. If we can't reach terms with the governor, we're going to go to the legislature. We'll need their help, and I'm going to be counting on them.
Now, the legislature did extend this last year. I mean, is that a lifeboat that you don't really want to get into? Would you rather have something on paper?
Well, I think at the end of the day, I want a compact with the state of Oklahoma on car tags, because I know whose interests are at stake. Not my interest, the interest of school kids, the interest of people who rely on law enforcement, people who want safe roads and bridges. Those are the interests that we're sticking up for. Whether that comes through a governor-signed compact or the legislature, I'm ultimately indifferent about, but I do know what the right outcome is for Oklahoma and the Cherokee Nation. That's to extend this compact on its terms for another term.
One of the big things he brings up is right now some tribal tags cannot be read by plate pay in the turnpike system, and it can't be pulled up by law enforcement. How do you address those big things he wants to bring to the table?
Well, those are two separate issues. Let's take them one at a time. So plate pass was a debacle by the state. I mean, they imposed plate pass, didn't consult with the tribes, didn't think of the tribes. The consequence are they're behind the times. The legislature has a bill that's dealing with that right now, and it seems to me that if the legislature resolves that, then it doesn't need to be in the compact, although we certainly could talk about it. The separate issue, this is really important, the governor's right. The most dangerous time for a police officer is when he or she walks up to that vehicle, needs to know who's behind the wheel. Every single every single year we've had this compact. From its beginning, we've shared in real time that information. It's a phony argument that we don't. It's actually been just completely demonstrated to be false. So that doesn't need fixed. I mean, we share in real time with law enforcement because we believe in public safety. Plate pass issue, if they want to bootstrap that, they're really adding an issue that doesn't belong in a compact. We can resolve that other ways.
Cherokee Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr., thank you so much for joining me today.